I've discussed with the theologians seem more interested in it than anybody else. I mean, I've discussed it with all sorts, people in Berkeley and Claremont people are a bit in that line. There was a fellow called von Brick who was from East Germany, a Lutheran, who came to see me.
That's wonderful. That is very good, isn't it? But the theologians are interested, isn't it?
Well, I hope I'm writing some papers now which may help to get the scientists interested in more mathematical papers. I've been rather busy the last week.
Well, at least you're credible, aren't you? You're believable by the scientific fraternity. They've got to believe you.
Not necessarily, no.
Oh, haven't they?
No, they may listen, I hope, but, people don't necessarily believe you, no.
Well, they've got to listen to you, haven't
Not
they?
necessarily either. I mean, some of them may, I hope. You see, that's all I could say. Nobody can force anybody to do that sort of thing.
Well, yes, well. You're credible. Let's say that you're credible.
Well, I hope so, yes.
Yeah.
Not everybody gives credence, so.
Well, where should we start, Mr. Bohm?
Well, I'll just say a few things. My impression of the book. Now, you see, I found the book a little hard to appreciate. You see, you said in the beginning, I think it was a kind of myth. And also, Mrs. Kuttner said that to me on the phone. Perhaps you could look at it that way, like a mythological representation of truth.
All right, then.
Yes, and in a way you could regard science. See, Popper said, he has written somewhere, you see, you could say that the mythology is the earliest theory, and the present theory could be called a kind of mythology that you're constantly discussing and testing and changing, you see. That the theory itself doesn't give you the exact representation of what is, but it gives you an insight.
I see.
Which can be tested, right?
Tested by what?
Well, in the case of science, by experience, right?
Which is the past.
Well, it will be the past, but you see, whatever you do, but it's still the test which science is doing, right?
Yes. And it's a presentation of the old against the new.
Well,
as a sort of verification of information.
We get a new idea and we test it by an experiment, by some of its consequences, right?
Yes.
Now, for example, if you have a map and you want to use it, it may be right, it may be wrong. As you use the map, you may discover it isn't right here. You say that's the wrong map. You discard it and we'll try to get another one.
Yes.
That's the sort of thing that we have in mind. Huh?
Could I say that is a journey into what is already existent and therefore known? Could that be acceptable to you?
Well, in general, but you see, science is also journeying into things that may to some extent be created by your new approach, you see. That is when we go deeper. And
into matter.
Into matter, yeah. And matter at the ordinary level, that is more or less true, but perhaps not exactly. But see, there's always some effect of your understanding on the thing you're studying.
Yes.
And this may increase as we go deeper into matter. And therefore, it need not be entirely a journey into the known, but science starts from the unknown, testing it against the known, right?
My whole point, yes, it's always tested against the unknown. The known.
Yes, but the knowledge is not necessarily known already, but it has to be gathered later, right?
Yes.
See, the way I put it is that from the past of the present, you try to predict the past of the future, you see.
Yes.
And that's the way scientific thinking works. That from the past which we have now, we form some notion of how to explain it, and then we predict the future, but the future is unknown, right? Well, not only the future, but the present is unknown. The present moment is inherently unknown. Whatever we know is somewhat behind, right?
Yes.
But therefore, that content of the knowledge of the known will in the future be the past of the future. So from the past of the present, we try to predict the past of the future.
Which will always be the past.
Yes, it will be the past. Agreed, yes.
Yes. So everything that, it's always going to be the past.
Yes. It will be a past.
An acceptable past that the present finds acceptable.
Yes, well, we'll say it's not the past. There's no unique past. Every moment has its past, you see. But every moment, it will be a form of the past, right?
Yes, you're burying into the past. I mean, I have to say that. All it is a burying into the past because all that comes from it is a prediction based on the past about the future.
About the past and the future. No, not merely about that. It cannot predict the future as it is, but when the future comes, it will have a past, and you will predict the past of that future. You see, whatever I know at any moment is past, right?
It is so.
Right. It may be a fraction of a second or longer.
Yes.
Now, usually we make the assumption that this time lag is unimportant. You see, that things change slowly and regularly enough so that what we say about the past will still hold for the present.
Yes.
Now, in a certain area that works, you see, namely in the ordinary mechanical area or in the area of scientific experiments, right? And many areas which we have to work, right?
Yes.
But then when we come to anything that changes very fast and very irregularly and very ambiguously, then it won't work. You see, that from the past we cannot say anything about the present.
It is so.
Yes. Now, I think this is what science is overlooking. It's making the assumption that everything can be handled in that framework, where we assume that knowing about the past can be carried forward into the present and the future.
Yes, and that is not true.
It is not true, but it holds only up to a point.
Yes.
But I would like to say that even up to that point, it is very necessary for life, you see, to be able to understand that area, right? You see, in the sense that we have to get food and shelter and so on.
Yes.
And so on, that life cannot be supported without paying attention to that aspect.
Yes, but not to make that life itself.
No, it isn't life itself, but that's the mistake, which civilizations have tended to make.
Which civilizations do make.
They do make, and I think all civilizations have made it,
Yes,
as far as I know.
That's why all civilizations are finished, even before they start.
Yes, well, and that is...
Would that not be so?
Yes, inherent.
There's nothing of value.
Their end is contained within them.
Yes. There's nothing of value in their civilization, so nothing of value lasts.
Yeah. Now, but I'd like to say a few more things. You see, that as I found in the book several points, which I might, some of the things you said that might find, and that seem a little difficult. You see if I can remember them now. You see, for example, what you said about gravity, that the gravity of the sun was very different from that of the earth. Now, scientifically, we see evidence that the main difference is that it's bigger, you see.
Yes.
Similarly, see, that was one case. If you say, why do things far away appear smaller? Well, we have a very simple explanation. They produce a very small image on the retina of the eye, you see. See, there are a few points like that which disturb me. I mean, one of the things you said in your tape was, that if people would see bodies freely, dead bodies that change. But see, there are cultures where death is very much in the open, like India or in the past. And you see the whole thing is still pretty chaotic.
Yes, but that's a continuation of a tradition where there's the mind or the perception is still westernized now. It's been...
No, but I meant even if you go back before that, say a few 100 years or so, India was still in a mess.
No, it's not the mess. It's the mess of the individual is a problem.
Yeah,
but civilization tends to regard the mess that the mass is in as indicative, but really it's the mess that the individual is in.
Yes, but you see, the fact that people were able to look at dead bodies didn't seem to make any great difference to the individual.
Well, it did. They do not have the same fear of death.
Perhaps, but in general, it still left the individual in quite a mess. Right? That they had social injustice and war and all sorts of troubles.
But social injustice comes because first of all we must overcome the fear of death. Truly, to overcome the fear of death, to get social justice. You cannot have social justice while we are terrified of death.
Yeah. Well, perhaps, you see, what I wanted to suggest was that the display of dead bodies freely did not really get rid of the fear of death, probably, among these people.
Well, no, because it was a reducing situation in which the westernized...
But even before they had much contact with the West. You see, India has had a long period of degeneration. Its civilization is, say, 3,000 years old nearly. And let's say, for a long period of time, it was degenerating on its own, you see, partly by invasion of the Mongols, and partly because they established this caste system, which became so rigid. At first it was probably an intelligent thing, saying people had to be according to their abilities, but gradually it became just very rigid, right?
Yes. As everything has become.
Does, yes. So now, see, their easier attitude toward bodies didn't prevent that. You see, I think there's much more to it than that.
Yes, but what you are selecting is the one thing about bodies without any fundamental change occurring in the individual via the social surround. Now, would you not say that the degeneration of the Indian under the movement of the psyche, where exploitation by the rulers of their people became more and more the rule, it's no good having dead bodies around. There's got to be there's got to be a sort of enlightened approach of it. But the beginning of exploitation is to start to get rid of dead bodies, to start getting rid of them. That's the beginning of the West of civilization. To start to get rid of to separate death from the present.
Yes, well, one would have that may be so. You see, I have a feeling it's more complex than that may be a factor. You see,
yes, that's fair enough. It's a very complex thing.
That the factor of fear of death certainly helps to separate people, to divide them.
See, if I could help our conversation here, I have to now get to myth. If I may, just interrupt you to get to myth. Myth, you observed just a while at the opening of our conversation about myth and truth. I forget what the quotation was, but...
Well, myth is not a literal truth. You don't take literally everything that is said there, right? But it gives an insight, which may be true, right?
Yes. Well, I have to say that myth is the only truth, the closest we can get to the truth. Any fact that you like to state to me, any scientific fact, is not the truth. Well, the truth is myth. It can only be conveyed by myth.
Yes, well, even what I said was that this Professor Popper said that in a way scientific theories are still a form of myth, that they're not literal truths either, but they give an insight which may help you to understand what is true, right?
Yes, but they are not... See, there's only one myth, I submit, that there's only one myth, and that is the myth, the knowledge. Myth as knowledge, not as information, because most of the information, most of the knowledge of the world is information. Now, myth is knowledge.
Yes, well, I don't think that a good scientific theory should be regarded as information, you see.
Good. When then, what is it knowledge of?
Now, it's knowledge in the form of a myth, is essentially, I would say, that a myth giving insight into the nature of matter. You see, something that unfolds in a way you can't predict, you see.
Yes, but I say we can predict how it's going to unfold matter. Not a particular direction, but it's going to unfold and unfold forever and ever and ever, just as you're showing it. That's the nature of matter. It's going to keep unfolding and never stop unfolding.
Yes, so we will have to have one myth after another.
So you're doing, it just goes on and on and on.
Well, I see that it depends on your attitude, say what you're doing. You see that there's no harm in going on and on with it if you say, unless you say that's all there is.
But is that true? There's no harm in it, because I say you're going to die.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't that stop all this? Doesn't that bring you to a stop and say, my God, you say I'm going to die. So why am I burying myself in matter?
Well,
does this not bring about a...
Not necessarily. You see, people feel, okay, I'll die, but the civilization will go on, and we're continuing, you see, to go into it deeper, you see.
But is that so?
Well, that's the way people
I understand.
feel,
I understand. But if I could just, and I know I don't want to interrupt you, but if we get away, I won't have a chance to speak about myth. I'd just like to speak about myth. Where I come from, there's only one knowledge, and that is original knowledge. What you are calling, and this is not, I'm not being critical, but what you are calling scientific knowledge is knowledge of what? The nature of matter. Now, I say that's not knowledge at all. That's information. Because the only knowledge that you can possibly have is self-knowledge, or the knowledge of the matter that you are.
Well, in some way, I am the matter of the whole universe. So it extends. You see, we're in contact.
Oh, yes, but if you go and investigate matter outside of you, you're going to investigate the universe, right? An extension of yourself, as by your own definition. Now, I say to you, why are you investigating a piece of matter that's at arm's length, rather than coming back to the matter of yourself, which is the closest matter to you, which would be intelligent to really investigate, right. And then with your own intelligence and without the aid of instruments, which are purely extensions of your senses, which can be proved to be transitory and just as unending and infinite in their reproductions, but what if you investigated the matter that you are?
Well, yeah, I'm not arguing about that. I'm saying that there are two things you can do. You can do that, and you can also do the other, you see.
But which is of value? Now we have to talk here to the something of value, and that has to be death. Because if we don't accept that value is fixed by death, something has to fix value.
Well, and so how would you say death fixes value?
Well, aren't you going to find out? That when something you love dies, does that not fix a value for you that is really real, beyond all the spaceships on Mars, beyond all the things? Doesn't that fix a real value? Doesn't every scientist, when he is smitten by that which is inevitable, death, does he not discover something of value for the first time and then forget it? In his pursuit of the never-ending, which is information and not knowledge, because the only knowledge is the knowledge of death. So that one does not get carried away any more by the matter outside himself, but understands the matter which he is, which is the secret of death. Is that not a value? Is that not the thing to teach our children? To understand the demon itself, death, which is already inside of me. That is the matter. The truth of the matter I want is the demon inside of me that drives me outside of me and makes me think this is important. The matter outside. Now, what I'm talking about, of course, is consciousness. We're back to what is really of value. We're out of the mind. We are back to what really counts. And from here, where I speak, on the other side of death, where I have died while I am alive, where I have penetrated the matter that I am, that's where I can, if anything, I have the value to give to you. That is all I have to give. Now, if science can get back to that, which is the myth, of course. I'm speaking living myth. But what is this myth I'm speaking? It is my self-knowledge now. An extraordinary thing. You are talking to a man who is actually dead at this moment and can speak about death and consciousness and the present as it really is, without one reference to what anyone in this world has ever said. But he speaks from myth, because nothing else can describe it. And what is this myth? Myth is the self-knowledge of the origin of man. There is no other knowledge but the origin of myself as man. And that begins with the other side of death, just over, and then going back beyond death, right back to the origins of the human race. Or you can come up from that point, up to here, just the other side of death inside this body. That is knowledge. But it is not possible to verify it by the past, because this knowledge is real knowledge, which is present now as what I am, man. Now we're in the present. Now we're in eternity. Now we're in a present that has no end because it has no search. I am the beginning and the end. But who wants to hear with you the knowledge you've got? All men want to hear the knowledge that I have. They only want to hear about science and what it discovers for so long, for the first 50, 60 years perhaps. Or if they're, but as soon as the death knocks on the door, my God, what's it all about? What's it been about? It's been about nothing. Because it doesn't matter that much whether civilization goes on or not when you're finished. May I say something more, Mr. Bohm? Because this is a very important matter. And I say what I'm saying with great humility and great presence with you. That it is this moment that we have to come to, just for a little while. Because we are both now in the present. And that is a fundamental state of consciousness in which we share. And it is essential for you to be in the presence of this consciousness, which you and I share now. Because you are a man before you are a scientist. And you are going to die. And you have been brought into this consciousness so that I can talk and you and I can be together just for a little while. This consciousness which is the present. which is the knowledge of the matter which is yourself.
Yes, but the matter which is myself is what? You say that.
What? Well, the biologist, for instance, doesn't study the matter which is himself. The only thing that can study the matter which is yourself is the only intelligence there is that discovers, that investigates the matter which is outside yourself. That is you, without instruments, without drugs, without anything, but the pure perception, which is the intelligence you are. Only that can probe the mystery, the myth of death, and true knowledge. Now, I've said what I've got to say, and I understand. That's what this book speaks about, knowledge as origins. Now, it cannot be verified except inside the individual. I have to say to you, because you are the only verification of it, anything I write or say, what I've been saying, either you are verifying it by the ring of truth inside of you, that I hear this. I hear some strange thing inside of me that's somehow hearing what this is being said. That is the only verification, because that's all you've got. It is you that is the verifier, not the mind. The man, the living being, is the only thing that can verify the truth. Because science uses the past to verify. Does it work in matter? And it's already past. It's all verifiable, therefore it's not true. You cannot verify what is true. That's the truth. You cannot verify what is true. So anything you verify, you can forget. It's all outside.
Yes, well, as a matter of fact, Professor Popper has proposed another thing that's saying you can't verify anything, but you see, we must emphasize falsifying the myth. You see, the scientific myth to show, you can show where it's false, right? Now, it may hold up to a point and then it's shown to be false.
Yes.
So in that way, knowledge continually can extend, right? Because when you show it's false, you can have a new idea and go further until it too is shown to be false, right? And so on. So knowledge is continually in that way moving outward, expanding or going further. Now, so one wouldn't say that knowledge in that sense is verifiable. But see, in order to be scientific, it has been said by Popper and others that knowledge has to be falsifiable, that it makes statements which could be shown to be false in some cases. Otherwise, the knowledge has no significance at all. If you say something which would be true, would correct no matter what you said, it wouldn't be knowledge, right?
Yes. But that would not be true. See,
Right.
Popper, I don't know, I know of Popper,
Yes.
but I don't know anything about Popper, but I would like to tell you now from where I say in my position of consciousness about Popper. There is science, but Popper is not a scientist in the sense that science investigates matter. He does not investigate matter.
No.
He is in the ideal. He is in the ideal world of ideas. Now, so regular science investigates the nature of matter, and Popper investigates the subconscious. Now, both of those, but he investigates the subconscious as a scientific exploration, not as a psychologist, but as a scientist, and he builds on in that area. He is just another aspect of science, building on words and ideas, and he is no closer to the truth than science. He is just another aspect of it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that Popper was closer, but merely that the question is, if you put the question of science fairly, that the question of falsifiability is crucial there. That, you see, it's not a question of, see, no scientific theory can really be verified. That's generally accepted now. But it can be falsified.
Then you see the truth.
What?
Then you can discover the truth through the false.
Yes.
Well, the same it is with the investigation of the matter which you are.
Yeah.
By finding what is false, we
yes. Well,
the
okay.
truth.
We can proceed from there. You see that if you take the approach which is implicit in science, which is to find what is false, right? And to drop what is false.
Yes.
Then we can have a common point of departure, right?
Yes. That is the same with self-knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I say, whereas science never reaches the end and never ever can reach the end, I, man, which is you, can reach the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because then where is the end of self-knowledge? Well, the end is the beginning, and it begins with the realization of immortality, that one knows there is no death.
Yes, well, when you say immortality, see, that was another point which arose, when I was reading your book, that you see, at first you said, well, okay, the past, the memories and so on of your life are really superficial and not really significant, and that when, that, as it were, moved back from them. And now, when you're dead, you're saying that you still go over the past, you go over what you have been. So, or do you still come back in contact with the past?
Oh, yes. Because yes, inasmuch as you exist.
I don't understand that.
Well, inasmuch as anyone exists, they exist in the past. But if you could reach a point where you do not exist, which is the point of consciousness, only the consciousness has no self in it. Then, if you were to take Krishnamurti's consciousness, he does not exist. He, therefore, is conscious every moment. Now, he has overcome death and the need to exist. Whereas most men have not overcome death to begin with, nor the need to exist. So death, when you overcome the need to exist, death cannot exist for you. Because do you understand that? The need to know, when you overcome the need to know as a scientist, there's no longer any need to know because you know. If science could overcome his need to know, he would know.
Yes, well, what would he know?
He would know the truth.
Yes, all right.
No, would that not be so? He would know the truth.
Then would he give up science?
No, he would be then.
No, he would be.
He would be himself.
He would be himself, but would that mean he gave up
You
science?
can't predict that, can you?
No, he might not.
Yes. But he would know the truth, and the truth would set him free, would it not? Free of the need to know. It is he who needs to know who is not free.
Yes.
He is afraid of death, whoever needs to know.
Yes, but what do we mean by the individual, by he? You see, there's, in the terms of what you're talking about, the consciousness of man is one, right? Is universal. There's one consciousness of mankind, of the earth, right?
Yeah, but I would have to say to you now that we must not jump to that. You have to discover that in yourself by knowing that you are immortal. Otherwise, it's an idea. It might be a Popper idea, not that I want to label him, but it might be an idea. It is purely a fabricated idea. The consciousness of man is not all one until you realize it as immortality. It is a fabrication, it is a theory. It is a mental, it is something that's good to say, but not known, not realized. It's an informational sort of a thing, passed from one to the other. All that matters in self-knowledge is the realization, the being of it.
Yes. Now, when there is the being of it, is that person who is it? Is he an individual? Is he different from other people?
Yes. He knows the truth.
Yes. Well, suppose there are several who know the truth. Are they different?
Yes, they occupy a position in a position in space and
I
time.
agree. They're different in different bodies and so on, but fundamentally are they different? So you're saying that this position in space and time anyway is very superficial, aren't you?
Yes.
Hmm?
This position in space and time is all we've got, though.
Yeah, but it is. But compared with what you're discussing,
as there's death, it can't be very important.
Well, because this position dies anyway.
Yes, that's right.
It's transient, right?
Yes. Now that consciousness still occupies a position
After death?
Yes, in space and time. Yes.
How does it do that after death?
Well, I'm going to tell you now what is not true, because unless you know it, it's not true for you. But I have to tell you what I know, right? So I'm going to tell you what's not true. It's only true for you if you know it. Anything that anyone tells you that you don't know is information. That's not true. Only knowledge is true. I hope Only knowledge is true, and there's only self-knowledge. So what I'm going to tell you now is information, therefore it's not true, because no information is true. It always leads to a theory. Isn't that what science does? And then it says what is true. But otherwise information leads to a theory. because there is only one consciousness, which I am now, and am in this moment connected with the entire consciousness, there is also individual consciousness in that consciousness. And that is the wonder. In other words, aspect. Just as it is mirrored in this position in time and space, which you occupy and I occupy, and each one occupies a unique position in space and time, that is purely a representation of the fact that consciousness is not only one, but also has its individual aspects.
All right. Well, I understand what you're saying. That
But it is not in existence. It is not in existence as we know it.
I don't know what you mean by being in existence.
Being in existence is to be able to be measurable or verifiable by information.
Well, you say being in existence is to manifest as matter or something.
Yes, and that's what I just said. That can be weighed or measured or verifiable by information.
But the consciousness is not in existence.
No.
In that sense, right? Is it not in space and time then?
Inasmuch as it is in matter, in the matter that I am, it is in space and time.
Yes. Now, you say that after a person dies, he still is in a way attached to matter because you've said that there's a kind of slow time for him, time which is both fast and slow in some sense, right?
And going into there is where Popper works in that area, in the subconscious. He's going into that, but he's still in this area.
Now, yes, you could say that, I understand what you say, that beyond the subconscious is that a boundary, that area, the edge of death, or whatever you call it, I forget.
Yes.
And now you're saying that that area is there constantly.
Oh, yes. That is a constant.
Rather than just appearing on death, right? And when the body dies.
Oh, yes, yes. It is reachable.
Yes.
Now, and Krishnamurti is reachable. I refer to him because you know the man. He has reached it. He is in consciousness. He would sit here with me. We could talk, but we wouldn't have a great deal to say. Although, because he is an aspect of consciousness and each aspect is unique, and that's the wonder of creation, he would come from where he comes from and be just as true as where I come from. But we wouldn't have to prove anything. Because it is knowledge.
Yes, now, assuming you have this knowledge, how did you get it?
By studying the matter which I am. And going into it.
Let's go on. How do you study the matter which you are?
I first of all start to look at my opinions and my values.
All right, I mean, I do that too.
Good. Then I start to say, then I start to see what is reliable in my opinions.
How do you find that out?
By seeing how stupid I am when I'm giving opinions.
Yes, well, you may find there's nothing reliable in opinions.
That's right. There is nothing reliable in opinions. Absolutely true. So all opinions start to go. I don't give opinions. Unless I went to the bank manager in the purely external world and he asked me those things.
Well, if you're dealing with matter, for example, you may form an opinion as to what the best course is, right? Suppose you say, I've got to go somewhere where, do something. What is the best thing to do?
Yes, but that would be to look and see what is best.
Yeah, so like the doctor may give what he calls a medical opinion, which is the best opinion he can give,
Yes, but where the error starts to creep in is that we use the same word to cover a multitude of activity, and that's where ignorance comes in, because every word is precise. As you know, because you are a man who really endeavors to understand language, don't you? And use it as a tool, a real tool. Because I see right through that book, what I love is a man that's looked at words and knows that there's a great and living truth in words. And you do it, and you point it out to people to make them do it too. If you don't mind my saying what you do, but that is to draw attention to this very, very fine, truthful tool, which is language. But when you say opinion, so we teach people, I'm entitled to my opinion and all this thing, and we start to confuse.
Yes, well, an opinion is basically a supposition, but it's one that people will identify with and adhere to it no matter what happens. That's what goes wrong. Right? That is, I may make a supposition that the best thing to do is this, and I could change it. But people say this is my opinion. I stick by it. Right?
Yes, and that of course is delusion and unconsciousness. And that's the sort of thing that you start to to get rid of. You shed, start to see
Yes,
it's
well,
false.
I've looked into that, you see. I mean, to some extent. And now, can you proceed further then?
Yes, one starts to give up what is false in oneself, starts to drop away, because
Yes.
one sees it and will not have anything more to do with it.
Yes, now the question is how that comes about. You see, the false has a tendency to stick. You see, that it presents itself self-deceptively as true. You see that.
Yes,
See, now you say, okay, I want nothing but the truth, but the false presents itself as the truth.
because against the false, the truth is seen. So we've got to keep looking, because
Yes.
the only thing that's true in us is that, like the scientist uses his perception, he uses it. He's the best example in the world of using the perception rightly, but he's facing outwards, in which he just looks for the fact.
Yes, well, he
And
should be doing it. He often doesn't, but
Yeah, well,
that would be the right way to do it.
That
right?
would be the right way to do it. Now, the self-scientist does exactly the same thing. He will not have any nonsense with himself. You won't have the thing starting to put opinions to him or put suggestions to him. He proves it all the time by saying, I won't have this. I will do nothing, for instance. For instance, if the choice comes between action and inaction, to make a phone call or not make a phone call, do nothing. Hold off.
Yes, why do you do that?
Because you must get control of yourself. Because we are all controlled by a massive movement of the past,
Yes, all right, so I understand that.
okay, which makes us make the phone call, which is not necessary.
Yes, the past is driving you, and the past presents itself as the present. You see this.
And that's not true. Not all of it's true. Only half.
But you get the sense of the immediacy
Sure.
of the past.
Yeah, and we don't have it. In self-knowledge, you cannot have it, because it will drive you continuously
Yes.
into ignorance.
Yes, but I think you see that. Let's see how we go about being free of this self-deception. You see that the past. See, having reached this stage, you see the past then assimilates it and says, "Okay, the truth is what we want," and then says the present is what we want. And the past produces an image of itself as the present, right? A sense of immediacy in the body, right?
Immediacy, yeah, but that cannot be the present.
All right, let's get that clear then. You see, but the past calls that the present, right? That sense of what is immediate. You see,
Yes, that's fair. Yes, that would be fair enough. Yes, that would be to name it.
Yes.
But when one is in oneself, one is not naming it, is it? So therefore, the past is not present. The
Yes.
past is only present when you name.
Well,
If you give up the namer, you give up the past completely.
can you make it certain that the naming is all that is, you see, involved? You see that, I would say that whatever it is, there are many questions involved here. You see, for example, to what extent would you attribute reality to the brain and the nervous system?
They have no reality.
Yeah, nevertheless, they seem to be necessary. See, if your brain is damaged, you see, none of this conversation could take place, right?
But that's not true, is it?
Right. Well, we
The brain is
couldn't
not damaged.
No, but I mean,
That is a supposition, and that's going outside yourself.
No, but you see, a person gets ill. I can often, one has been ill, or one would be unable to do this sort of thing. It seems, that a healthy brain is necessary to do this sort of thing. For example, Krishnamurti often says you must have a healthy brain, right? You see that?
Does he say that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised at it.
Well, you might be, but
How does he know he's got a brain? Well, now I'm not being silly,
yes.
because he knows he hasn't got a brain. He knows.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure, but whether he does or not. See, for example, look, if somebody, his skull is opened up, and you see, there's the brain, it's been damaged, or a bullet in it or something, that's not functioning, and he's dead, right? But its life, if it cannot be continued, if the brain undergoes damage beyond a certain point.
But if we could just, this immediacy, Mr. Bohm, I just have to stop you.
Yes.
Because you are outside yourself. You are outside self-knowledge. You have gone out into the trick. This is the very thing of delusion that you were talking about. How do we keep into it? We do it by not allowing you to go on with this conversation. Because you're outside yourself. You are in informational level. You're quoting other people, meaning you're quoting other references. You must think your brain is quite okay. My brain is quite okay if we've got one. So damaged brains do not exist now. Unless you live like that, you can never know the truth. It is so demanding, so obliterating of all other references because you don't need them. You are, I am, two human beings in the wonder of life communicating. Now, we do not need to know anything else but the knowledge of what is existent now. We are not naming them. We are present. We have the temerity, the strength to actually be present. Now, this is the truth. Where we are now is the truth. There's no room for Popper's ideals. There's no room for any of that nonsense. We are the living truth now because there is no past, no reference to memory, no namer, no silly brain. The brain represents the past, is the thing that's got to be gone beyond. While we teach our children that you've got a brain, we teach them ignorance outside themselves. Do you see if we could only keep them now?
All right, but nevertheless, you see, they're going to face problems like people who have damaged brains are going to be difficult to deal with, for example. You see.
Then we don't deal with it.
We don't at present, but I'm saying that as you walk and do things, you see, you're careful to protect yourself. You protect your body, which includes...
No. My body protects itself, but my consciousness of my body, my survival, like a dog, does exactly the same thing.
All right,
it doesn't need my intelligence, my civilized intelligence.
Agreed. The body protects itself. And the question then changes, if you look at it that way, to do you accept the body as real?
Well, and then I have to ask you this question, because we are staying on this edge of time, aren't we?
Mm.
What is the body to you, Mr. Bohm?
Well, it's hard to explain. I mean, one sees the body, you see it.
Yes.
One can feel it from the inside.
Right. Now, which is the real?
What?
Which is the real body?
Well, I couldn't say. You see, even the body that one feels is, just being felt on spots and so on. So you don't feel the whole of the real body.
But is that true?
What?
That you don't feel the whole of it?
Well, maybe, but at least one's not aware.
No. Well, I am aware of it.
Yes.
And I feel the whole of my body. But it is not a body. It is not a body as... This is... If I close my eyes and my ears, only my imagination can reproduce the body that you refer to as the external body, which we can see.
As well, I agree to that, but the external body is a construction of some kind.
Now that is therefore cannot be true.
Yes, it may be correct construction up to a point, like a map. It would guide action in a certain way.
If you wanted to go outside, yes. If you wanted to go inside, we've got to discard the map.
Yes. Now,
that's an extraordinary statement there, Mr. Bohm. If we want to go inside, we have to tear up the map. It is by trying to follow the map, external map, to go inside that we get in confusion.
Yes. You see, one can say that the mind is constructing what I've been calling this explicate order and projecting it, which includes the vision of the body.
Yes.
And that is time, that is inevitably involves time, and it inevitably means consciousness is behind the actuality. That is, whatever the content of consciousness is, it's already gone, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could say that you see that the actuality of consciousness is this enfolded order, where we don't have time and space. That's what I would suggest. And if you want, then say that means that if consciousness were to be able to move into this enfolded order, or to give a main emphasis to that, see, at present, consciousness tends to give a main emphasis to the outside order, the explicate order. This inside is sort of a vague background against the outside.
You're talking about your consciousness?
Yes, or I think people in general, I would say from the way people behave, right? Talk.
That is so, because they are ignorant and deluded.
Now, if consciousness will turn this around and give the main emphasis to the implicate order, the explicate order is a sort of a vague background.
Yes.
Then you could say to the present moment anyway is unknown. You see that any knowledge is behind the present, and it never is the present. We are each somehow enfolded in that, so we still have an individuality, nevertheless, right?
But how will that individuality express itself?
Well, I don't know yet. You see that insofar as anything is correct about the explicit order, it's because it is the counterpart of something in the deeper order. What I'm trying to say that, but this explicit order in the deep order is a very thin part of the deeper order. You see.
Yes.
Well,
But the deeper order, that implicate order that you talk about, is still in the subconscious. It is not. It is not true.
Mm.
The only truth is nothing. The present has no knowledge. The present is the immediate unfoldment of itself, whatever it is. In man, as I speak now, it is the unfoldment of the truth, whatever happens. In you, it's the same thing. Now, either it contains significance or it doesn't. It contains the significance of the reality, which will be the myth of the man that is being spoken, or it will contain the significance of the mind or the memory, the subconscious or the explicit order that is being revealed. And that would be scientific knowledge, or someone who speaks from the memory or gives an opinion. That will still be the truth revealing itself. But the significance is in the value that is addressed, such as the scientist addresses a value, giving value to the explicit order, investigation of that. The person who depends on his memory, quoting other people and developing theories, uses a memory reality. But the man who is present, who expresses the reality as it is now, with that significance and that value, has a totally different statement makes that other men do not make. Because there are many men who make scientific statements and many men who make memorable statements. But only the man who is consciousness makes what I call immemorable statements, statements that can't be remembered, because knowledge cannot be remembered. Information can be remembered, but knowledge cannot. Knowledge has got to be rediscovered every moment, and that's what makes it fresh and new. And then the consciousness is present, and it is drawing on nothing. It is not drawing on an implicate order. It would be right to say from the subconscious point of view that to describe the implicate order, it is the reverse side of the explicate, as you say. But behind those, they're not true. They are truly not true, both statements. Behind that is this unconscious, which is myth. And man has divorced himself from myth. And he is unhealthy and unhappy because of it. And he's tried to introduce, like you had the subconscious, with all its thinking processes, with all its imaginative processes, to make up for the deathly materialism of the explicate order. And that's his answer to the myth and death. And of course it's an intermediate world. It's a subterfuge. Because he's cut himself off from death. Not the death of dead bodies. When I talk about that, I just point out a surface symptom of the problem. The problem is that he's cut himself off from being in death while he is alive. Actually being in death within himself. And that's what the Indians did gradually. Although they had the dead around them, they started to cut themselves off from the being of the death.
Yeah, well, they made it a formalism, I think, a ritual.
Yes, they did, which is the general degeneration into time, which is all over the face of the earth.
Yeah, well, that constitutes, and that comes from putting it all into memory and time, and
that's
going back to the past to determine what happens now.
Yes,
so
that's all in the subconscious, and that's all this. And of course, the subconscious has certain depths where, as you're going down there and trying to bring it together, you're going deeper into the subconscious, but it is still not equal, not the truth.
Well, yeah, well, anything you say cannot be the truth, but you see anything you say in that sense that anything you define, that the implicate order is still limited, but it occurred to me that one could say that if you go to the other side of the explicit order as the implicate order, the counterpart of it, then the two sides together may point to something else. You see that to say It's like two views
Yes.
pointing beyond that dimensionality, right?
Yes. And what will they point to, Mr.
Well, essentially what is beyond either of them.
They will point to only one point, and that's all there can ever be, because that's all that they're trying to point to, is I, the individual. I must start here. I must give up the investigation of the explicate order and the implicate order. I must start inside myself and get down to the reality that is beneath them. It is the only reality. We have to face it sooner or later. We've got to give up this involvement with ideas. Now that sounds dreadful, and I'm sure Professor Popper would be very unhappy about that. But unfortunately, if you're going to find a reality, you have to shed the false, and all ideas are falsehood. Because they are not nothing. They do not lead you to nothing, they lead to more ideas. What you've got to get is to an idea that leads to nothing. Now, how can we find an idea that leads to nothing? I am the idea, I, man, am the idea that leads to nothing. If I will only start with the idea of myself and descend into that idea by discarding everything about it that I can, I will find the nothing and I will find the secret.
Now, what do you mean by the idea of yourself, then?
To be nothing, to be present, without any need to know. Because you see, to discard the idea has to be, eventually I have to give up the need to know. And the need to know is all that's driving the world on its insane journey. The need to know. Now, when you know the truth, and this is why I can demonstrate it to you as a reality, that when you know the truth, you do not need to know anything else, because it's self-evident, isn't it? Anyone who knows the truth does not need to know anymore, has no more questions.
And then what is the point of going on? What do you do then?
You are informed every moment of everything that you need to know. Now, if man could only realize, I am informed every moment of everything I need to know, you would be free. You wouldn't have to search outside himself. Because that's the implicate, the true implicate order, is that implicit in my being is all knowledge. It's all over there. You are free. You are free of death. When something that you love dies, you know the truth. You are free of that. You are free of the need to try, and you are free of the need of wanting. That terrible thing, wanting, that causes all our unhappiness and frustration. You're free of all those things, death, trying, and wanting. The three devils that we worship in this world. Man doesn't want to be free. He just doesn't want to be. He wants to know. And while he wants to know, he will never, ever be free. Because he wants to know something outside the truth, which is himself.
What do you mean, something outside the truth?
What happens when you die? What has gone wrong? What's it all about? What lies on Mars? What's behind the K particle, whatever it is? What is behind this? That is what's such harmless things as that, such real things as that, he has to give up to find the truth of himself. Because that is burying himself in existence. It is as fundamental as that, and it is terrible, isn't it? I mean, it's terrible, isn't it? It's the implications of it.
Well, would you say then that people will cease to explore these questions altogether?
No, I see first they must explore themselves.
All right.
And then the reality will show each one in his genius what he does. He might then investigate science, but the value that he applies, the value inside himself will have changed. So therefore the application of his scientific genius, the product of it, will be applied to something of value. Whereas today, it is applied to nothing of value. You see, when you change yourself, find yourself, you change your value. Then everything that you produce is applied to something of value. And science is applying itself to nothing, whatever of value.
Can you see anything of value that it could apply itself to?
Yes.
What?
the human race.
What do you mean? I don't get
It is too late. We have gone too far. Nothing can be rectified. But if we could have got it right from the beginning, we would have made the welfare of the human race would have been the value that we would have set.
that. Yes, well, so scientific knowledge would add to the welfare of the human race, you're saying. And what
Well,
way?
no, it doesn't.
Not now, I agree, but under those conditions it would happen.
Not really. There was no need for science. Science was an evolutionary necessity because man, with his thinking and wanting and trying, had got it in such a mess that he had to come up with solutions to the errors he'd made, and that gave rise to science.
But it seems you're contradicting yourself, because before you said that science could, have a valid, a genuine value.
If man had started early enough, because science didn't just start 300 years ago.
No.
Science started when man said, watch that tree falling off, that apple falling off the tree, or back
Now,
further.
suppose that he had taken a different turn there. Now, what sort of thing could you think science could have done?
Well, it's quite obvious what science could have done. Science could have, instead of making the National Westminster Bank, could have worked more efficiently with computers. They could have used those computers. And this is all wrong because it's a partial.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
But make those serve so that everyone has the fruit of the earth.
Yes, I just was trying to find out what you meant, that you could say that it would provide a good life, for everyone, and keep things in a reasonable order and so on. I mean, as far as...
Well, a reasonable order would follow.
Yes.
So order would follow. When we consider the right value, which is the human race, there's only one value, so there's only one order.
Yes,
so everything's right.
Yes, but science would then be part of that right order, the way you're describing.
But it came so late in time
Mm-hmm.
that it is just the correction of one error after another. It is itself an error correcting errors.
Yes, it doesn't catch up with the whole error, and therefore just compounds it.
Yes,
Makes it worse. Yeah.
Yes. Which is unfortunate because it is fundamentally, it is creative, but the value, the reason is wrong, because man, to be a good scientist, the only way he could be a good scientist would be to find the value himself first, and then that reality would express itself through his genius, man's genius. Man is his genius, is wonderful once he finds himself. But if he doesn't find himself, he'll apply it to wrong values.
Yes, well, all right, yes. You see, I think that, at least to me, it doesn't come across in your book, that very well, because I feel that there are very complex structures in there, of ideas, really. And but we'll put that aside for the moment, anyway. All right, well, that this raises a question, we've touched on it before, that since it is very late, about the state of human evolution, you don't envisage the extinction of the human race.
No.
So that presumably if there were a catastrophe, there would be survivors.
Yes.
And now do you envisage that they might do something different?
Yes. But I can't go too deeply into that. I would have to deal with it in great depth, because anything superficial would be create a wrong impression of any superficial dealing with it.
But I want to ask another question, which is what anybody, including ourselves, do now relevant to that which would happen after this catastrophe?
Well, to put it simply, what this catastrophe will do will be to wipe the world, the memory, out of the survivors, and any desire to be associated with anything in the past, which is the memory. Now, when man is freed of the memory, freed of the need to know what was the past, to confirm anything that the past had, the tremendous change takes place.
Yes. Now, it seems to me then it's not obvious that anything we do now would be relevant. That we're just here waiting for the catastrophe.
Yes, that is so. Everything. Yes, it is.
Then what is the point? What is the value of what we are doing?
There's no value in what you do.
Well, I mean,
What we're doing as a society, there's no value in it.
I mean, even so, in what we're doing right now, for example.
Oh, wonderful. That is the supreme value.
Yes, well, why do you say that?
Because you are man, and you are humble man, who has come to talk to consciousness, about consciousness. Therefore, you represent life on earth, which is of value. And the only thing of value is for man to get back to the value, which is himself, which is the consciousness within him.
Yes. Now, are you saying that, you see, even...
This is the only intelligent conversation on earth.
None of us survive, or nothing of what we say survives, it will affect the consciousness anyway.
Oh, that's not true.
Right.
If you realize your consciousness, which I would like to help you to do, then you will be life on earth. But if you die without realizing your consciousness, you will not be life on earth. You'll still be in the past. I would like you to be in the present.
Yes, I was asking another question. Suppose, say, individual A is life on earth, then will that affect the consciousness which will survive after the catastrophe, or which will?
The only consciousness that will survive after the catastrophe, because the past is going to be wiped out, is that which is present now.
Yes, all right, I see it. That what is present now in a way is eternal.
It is so.
And therefore it must be there too.
It will be there. I shall be there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like...
But will you be there as an individual? Or as present in whoever is there in some sense?
I shall not be here in this body, necessarily.
But as an individual in some sense?
In some sense I shall be there.
But will you be there in some body, for example? In some other body?
Well, that would require me to know something, and I can't say that. I can only say I shall be there, for I am consciousness, and I am responsible. So that which is responsible is always there in life on earth. I am responsible for life on earth, for I am consciousness. And my responsibility is to make more consciousness in life on earth. And that is why you and I are speaking. Because the only thing of value is to make you conscious. In other words, be the eternal. And that's why Krishnamurti's been wandering around for 50 years trying to do that. But I name it what it is. And that's not his way.
Yes.
Now you, the individual, you are the most important thing on the earth to me at this moment, because I am with you. This is the present. You are with me, and I am addressing myself to you. And everything that I'm doing and saying in my very presence is the endeavor of life on earth, consciousness of life, to make you more conscious of yourself. And why are you important? You are important first as an individual, but also because you represent that area of scientific consciousness, which is a great area of consciousness that yet it hasn't realized itself. And you apparently have this, like you have your explicate and implicate order and are trying to put those together. That is your endeavor to make some link with consciousness and what you are doing in the external. But really you have to come into what I would call into the unconscious, beyond the implicate that you are endeavoring to reach. And if I should ever see you again and you should come to me, and we should talk anymore, it will always be, in my knowledge, for you to get into the unconscious and become what I call conscious of the unconscious. And that is the reality. Because that's the only reason I can ever be with you, is to talk. Because you are a man. You're not a scientist. You're a man like I am. And that's all that counts, because I've said the only value is in the human race, man. And you to me are the human race. So I spend my time endeavoring to reach man, to help the human race to greater consciousness. Because that is the only thing of value, and especially now, when the only thing that's going to be left here is that which is responsible, which is consciousness. Responsible for life on earth. Because only that is worthy of being present, of being saved, of man, of the past, is the present. Without any knowledge. We don't need that knowledge. Because everything is implicit in us.
Yes, now, if we come back to the question of that we tend to continue the past, you see. Now this, in other words, the human mind is trapped in continuing the past, right?
Yes.
Now the question is how this is to stop, how this is to cease. So see, if the mind does not continue the past as I see it, then there will be the present, right? And there is the present.
Yes. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because you're a very good question. Please. How do you feel when I speak about being consciousness and speaking to you at the level where I'm coming from, about you being the important thing, you the man? How do you receive that?
Well, I don't know how to answer you exactly. I mean, I think it's true that the man is deeply this consciousness. But I think it brings to the question that what do you mean by being conscious of the whole body? You see that the thing is that the mind is identifying consciousness with various parts of the body, or various sensations in the body. Right? Now you're saying that that is a kind of block. Now then you're saying the first step is to see the consciousness of the whole body, to be conscious of the whole body.
But you can't do that unless you do it by the process of gradually leaving the body behind as you journey into yourself.
All right.
Leaving the external perception, which is the imagination, behind.
Yes, but then we'll say one still feels the sense of the body there. You say that being here or here or here, you see, for example.
But when one enters consciousness, that is the mind that feels the separation, because the mind always separates, divides. When one enters consciousness, one becomes aware of a totality, which does not take any shape, but of a totality of sensation. And that is the body or the system or the universe, whichever you like. Who's to say it's not the universe?
Well, the totality of sensation, you see, which I would have called a kind of implicate order. No, not any particular shape.
And then that in itself disappears as one disappears into that. And then one has no need to hold on to that sensation anymore, because one is that which is consciousness. And one has then gone beyond the mind, because the mind is only a projection of either thought or consideration or something else. When the mind is still and no longer needs to move.
The mind is what?
When the mind is still and no longer needs to move, one is then conscious. One is round rather than pointed, going out, in the form of the need to know. Because what is round goes out infinitely, and that is a definition of consciousness. And as it contains all, the center is informed of all that it needs to know at any time. Whereas the mind is not informed of what it needs to know, so it's got to go looking for what it thinks it needs to know.
Yes, now why does it look then? Or why does it think it needs to know?
Because it's afraid of death.
What makes it think that death is, imminent knowledge will avoid death?
Because it fills in time.
All right, what do you mean by that?
Well, the fear of death makes us fill in time. That's what makes time. When we don't feel death, fear death, when we don't want something else apart from what we are, there's no time. You're in the timeless. So when you give up the pursuit of knowledge outside yourself, you are timeless. You are in the eternal. Because all knowledge is implicit in your being. So it is the pursuit of knowledge that creates time. And the pursuit of knowledge is wanting and trying.
Yes, now you're saying the pursuit of knowledge arises only because of the fear of death?
Yes.
And how would knowledge apparently help to avoid the fear of death?
How would knowledge?
Because it's implied in that a person pursues knowledge because he hopes knowledge will help him avoid fear of death, right?
Yeah. because he is looking in the wrong direction. If he pursued self-knowledge, he would encounter death.
Yeah, but why does one fall into this illusion of believing that knowledge is going to help you avoid death?
Because we will not face death.
Then we have to come to the question, why is the mind unwilling to face death?
Because it can't. Because the mind's going to die.
The mind can't face death. It's not really unwilling.
It can't look inward. The mind cannot look inward. The mind can only assimilate that which is partial. It cannot assimilate that which is partial.
Are you meaning by the mind thought, really, and feeling and things like that?
The assessor, the analyzer, the assessor, the monitor, the intelligence, what we consider to be the intelligence.
So the mind cannot consider death properly, because it deals only with the outward in some way. And in any case, it would have to contemplate its own death with it, which it can't do because the very act of contemplating it would not be dead, right?
It would die.
Right?
It would die. If it started to contemplate its own death, it would die as a projection.
Yes.
It would be its own death.
Yes, I see that. That would properly contemplating its own death, it's got to die.
Yes, that is so. So you've named it.
Now,
That's it. And that's what happens to it, and that's why it's so painful.
Then why does it find death, dying so painful?
Nothing wants to die.
Well,
It has to give up its existence.
That's why does everything want to hold on to existence then? And
Well, it has
it makes so much suffering, right?
It has momentum. Everything in existence has momentum. And any endeavor to slow down momentum is pain.
Yes, well, insofar as it's time and thought and so on, then there will be the tendency to continue, right? To continue the past, right?
Yes.
As everything in existence tends to continue the past in some way.
And yes, that is so.
Even though it changes.
That is so.
But it can't continue indefinitely. It's got to die.
Yes, yes. And the only continuity that is real to us is our own continuity.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the only way I know momentum is in myself.
Yeah.
I don't know the momentum of a bullet, for instance, unless it touches me, all right. So it's the only momentum that I can experience as a reality is the momentum of myself to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I try to not exist, I will suffer pain. And
Yes, now what do you do when you suffer pain, you see?
you must see the truth that what you are endeavoring, you are dissembling yourself, and you must valiantly stand there and allow yourself to be dissembled by yourself.
Yes, I understand that. I mean, I've done no work on that.
Good. Well, then that is the only way to die. And
So you've got to stay with it all the way, right?
all the way. Yeah, and it is very, very painful.
Yes, but then going all the way, then you say you die, right? No. You pass in.
Well, the
mind dies, and the consciousness passes beyond the edge of death, the death zone, or whatever, I forget what you call it, right? Into the unconscious.
That is so, into the unconscious. Yeah.
But then the unconscious is in some way conscious when that happens.
Yeah, then that happens. You are conscious in the unconscious, but there's nothing in the unconscious anyway. So it's all right.
Nothing could be, but nevertheless,
All is implicit in there.
there's no defined thing in there that.
And so you are then in the timeless or the eternal.
Yes,
Yeah.
and insofar as you've got out of the constant production of this time and explicate order by the mind, the only thing which separates one moment of time from another is that, isn't it?
Yes.
So therefore, it's all one now.
That is. That is so.
So the now, which will be after the survival for the survivors of the catastrophe, is also this now here,
That is so.
deep down when you get beyond the edge of death.
Yes. Well, that's it, yeah.
Yes, okay, I understand that.
I would like to see you. I would like to see you know it, realize it. I would like to see that before you die. Could you possibly accept inside yourself in any way, as a reflection, that it's possible that you are here for that reason?
Well, I can't exclude it. It may be possible, yes.
Was it? Do you know, have you any intimation at all that when I say I am from consciousness, and the way I reply to your questions, that it is possible that I am what I say. It is possible that I am what I say in consciousness, in the eternal.
Yes, well, it may be possible, I see that.
Because whatever you ask me, I will always come from that place. And eventually, no one, you can go and ask anyone on this earth the questions you're asking me, and no one, except those who are in that consciousness, can reply as I can. And no one can reply as I can, for I am unique in this position of space and time, as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very important, Mr. Bohm, for you to, if you see any of this, is to acknowledge it. Let me tell you why. If you see the truth that is coming through me, in any way that you can acknowledge it, it helps you, for what you acknowledge, the truth that you acknowledge, brings that truth to you. It is because man cannot acknowledge the truth in others that he sees the true truth that he sees, cannot acknowledge it, that he doesn't get the same truth in himself.
Now, why can't he acknowledge it?
He is proud. He does not believe that another human being, unless he is dead, can possibly be consciousness and know the truth. It is too much for his pride, his mind, to take. He wants them to be dead. He wants all the masters have got to be dead.
So there'll be no competition.
Yes, because he thinks he knows everything and he knows nothing.
But why does the mind think it knows everything?
Because it's all it's got. It will not denigrate itself. And each man represents the mind. So he says, well, he's entitled to his opinion, or he says he's a fool, but really the mind says, well, he's got a mind. It's the mind acknowledging a mind. Now we're talking about consciousness. And the mind won't acknowledge consciousness because that means the death of itself. So if you acknowledge the consciousness I am, your mind is ready to die so that you can become consciousness yourself. It is a matter of humility and surrender. The old religions were not wrong. They just have been presented in rather untimely ways at present, in sloppy ways, by priests and people who do not know the truth. But it all comes down to the ability to be humble, to acknowledge God, to acknowledge the truth, to acknowledge love. Because what you acknowledge, man, you get. But if you are too proud to acknowledge that which is, you don't get it. No matter how much you cry and weep for it, say, God help me, what have I done to deserve this? You have not acknowledged love, man, or the truth that has presented itself to you. You want all your masters to be dead, but they are safely tucked away and cannot make demands on you and say what you must do to find the truth I am. There's another reason. By acknowledging what you see, the truth that you see, wherever you see it, and especially in my own case, for I can only speak from the truth I am, you eliminate the possibility of karma.
Oh, what?
Karma. K-A-M.
Karma.
I do not want you to be bound to me, for I am a teacher of freedom, and I free men, not bind them. But any man who learns from me, and I teach all men who come in my company, or my presence, because he has to receive from me, he is bound to me. He must pay back, for we must pay back anywhere in this universe, anywhere on the face of this earth, what you receive, you are liable for. You must pay back.
Yes, what do you mean by paying back?
The acknowledgement of the truth. If it is true, if you receive love, you acknowledge love. If you love your child, if your child loves you, and you acknowledge the love in a right way, not by giving gifts, but with wisdom and truth and understanding, you acknowledge your child's love. If you see it playing with something and you see it do an action of love, and you call it over and say, I saw love in you, you have acted lovingly, I think that is beautiful, you gave me great pleasure because I saw you love. The child will grow in love. And you will pay that child back for the love that you saw, that it gave you, the pleasure of your love, for love. That child will not be bound to you, and you will not be bound to that. You will get rid of the attachment to the child, and there will be love between you. And that child, if you do it often enough, will never leave you in life or death. Because you eliminate the karma. Man does not understand this. I understand it, for I am consciousness.
Now, what is meant by karma?
Bondage.
Yes, but what made the nature of the
Effect.
bondage? Huh?
Effect of effect.
Yes. What kind of karma? I mean, and what does it mean?
Effect. The effect that one must pay back to compensate for what one has received, or one will be bound to that which it did not pay back.
Yes, why is there bondage to that which we didn't pay back?
Because you're not allowed to be selfish. Because the whole progression of consciousness is towards the sharing which is so great that the whole of the human race receives exactly the same thing. And if one has more than the other, one has not paid back.
Yes, but it's not clear. You see, I can see that a person is bound because he continues in the past. You see. For example, something happened between certain people, two people some time ago, which may have been a quarrel or a lack of acknowledgement or something. That leaves a mark. And we continue that, and more things flow out of that, and more things. And I regard that as a kind of karma, right?
Yes.
Now, if we could cease to continue the past, we would be free of karma. That's the way I understand it.
And that is in the argumentative world,
Right.
and that world of relationships. But I am not talking in that world, because in another world, the same as in the explicate order, there's also in the implicate, there's also in the unconscious, and it gets finer and more diffuse, but the principle is the same. The principle that gives rise to all these things in the various mediums is the same.
Well, if truth or love is not acknowledged, would you say it leaves a mark in memory, and say thought begins to operate on it and begins to bind you to the past, right? To that past event?
Yes, you are bound. Yes, you are bound.
By thought, which is constantly trying to know what to do
Yes.
about that problem.
Yes, you would be bound to the thought about it, whereas you should not be bound.
No, the thought should die away. See?
Yes, you should not be bound, but the thought won't. If you've got karma,
Yeah.
thought and the need to know and examine and work out will be there.
Now, what level does this karma exist in you? At the unconscious, or?
Well, it's
In
a
all
principle,
levels?
isn't it? It's a
It's
principle.
a principle in all levels,
At all levels, it is a principle.
even in the unconscious.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yes.
Because all that we can say comes out of the unconscious and it exists there to begin with, yes. It
Yes.
is implicit.
Yeah, so you're trying to say we need assuming we have been, people in general have been bound in this way from the past, something must happen to free us, right?
Yes.
Now, that something happens in the unconscious.
Yes.
It will happen, right?
Yes, it's going to happen to free them from the past. Yeah, that's the end of the world, yes.
Yes. But then it seems, how are we to understand that happening? Does it happen? It doesn't happen in time, and yet it happens. What does that mean?
Well, it does happen in time because all out there is karma, is not paying back.
Yeah.
All
But there's also something in the unconscious which is not time,
Yes.
where it all starts, right?
Well, he starts back, yes, in the deep levels of the unconscious.
Yeah. And
That
something.
is that all is unity.
Yes. Now something changes in the unconscious. You see, how does something? If the unconscious is eternity, how does something change in eternity? I mean, that's not
Well,
clear.
it doesn't. In the beginning, all is unity.
Yeah.
So anything that is practices disunity out here is against the principle.
Yes.
So therefore, it's got to pay until it becomes unity.
Yeah, but you see, we have to get it clear, because whatever is out here, you say it's nothing, but you're trying to stay still. Nevertheless, it's something because it has some ground in the unconscious. You see that the failure to pay back, to acknowledge, has left something in the unconscious which is binding us. Right?
Oh no, it's not working like that. It's only left something in the existence where you are.
In the existence where you are, right?
Not the unconscious is completely unified.
Yeah. So the change occurs in existence.
Yes. in either of the any
Yeah, but it seems
even
there's
life
something
after death.
important about existence in the sense that if we don't keep existence straight, it does screw everything up, even if the...
Yeah, eventually destroys itself. So it doesn't matter. Because if you cut off the tail of this thing, it doesn't matter.
Yes, all
And
right.
you
So
can keep
we
cutting
could say
back.
existence is constantly trying to reach a harmony with the unconscious. And if it doesn't, it'll die, and then other existence comes. It's almost like the idea of evolution, right?
Yes. It is an attempt to pay back.
Now, I don't see why you say paying back, because that's not very clear why that should be so relevant.
Well, in the beginning, there was an opportunity. All men had exactly the same. All life had exactly the same, which was the planet Earth, and the fullness thereof, whatever that was. Then some started to take more than was necessary.
Now, why did they do that? Just appetite?
Because they started to fear death, and so they had to hoard.
Yes, to give the idea of having permanence, right?
Yes.
By hoarding material matter, hoarding material things.
Yes. And so that then they didn't pay back because they'd forgotten about the unity of death.
Yes, well, what didn't they pay back? They didn't acknowledge love, right? Or truth. Right?
At that level, but even at that level, if they said, no, I can't have this, I cannot have this because this is against the principle of unification, that all things are blessed or none at all, and I cannot be more blessed. And if the rulers had said, because in the beginning the rulers of men in the beginning were the God men, and they were filled with love and unity. And as they were, was how the society was. And as they symbolize unity and love, so all men shared in what there was. But when that corruption started there, and the rulers started to suffer corruption, so the whole society suffered corruption.
Yes, and the rulers were afraid of death, so they weren't completely wise.
No, something happened there.
We don't, no idea.
Well, I would if I looked, but I'm not looking now. So.
Oh, right.
But in the beginning.
Yeah, but how do we know something will happen again, you see it?
Well, something will happen again. Time will endeavor to come in. And probably will.
Yeah, well, why is existence such that time is endeavoring always to come in and destroy it?
Well, if it is a projected existence, then time is pretty quick, like it is in this projected existence. But it is possible for you to be in existence now, and yet not in a projected existence. It's just that your consciousness is on a focused projected existence,
Right,
in which time moves at the present speed.
Yes, I was calling that the explicate order.
Yeah, that's the explicate. Now, if you came into what you call the implicate, or what I call the subconscious area of the mind, an existence is possible there, in which time, if I could say, the consciousness speeds up, but the time slows down.
Yeah, well, there's something in the idea of implicate order that would fit that would be one move. That you could think of a wave that was extremely fast carrying another wave that was very slow.
That's exactly how it is. So as the consciousness speeds up, the time always slows down.
Yeah.
That's why any man, as I've said about distances at a distance, any man who studies, like the scientist or myself, looks at something out there, a point of reality, the consciousness is speeded up to look at that. Not like an individual out there who reads one of the daily newspapers and that's his idea of what is good. And he glances at the heavens. There's no reality in his glance, and there's no reality in him. But as a man truly looks at that and tries to understand it, he becomes as real as the object itself. So time, his consciousness speeds up because he is addressing a real object. And cosmic objects are more real than anything else. He is addressing a cosmic object which has great gravity.
Now, if you say a cosmic object is real, that means is it at the level of beyond death? Does it have its reality there?
Yes, yes, indeed. All cosmic objects have their reality in death. This is not their reality.
But beyond death, they have the reality.
Yes, beyond death, they have their reality. Yes. So when he addresses himself to that and looks at that real object, his consciousness speeds up and the time slows down.
Yeah. And then
that is
it
demonstrable.
start creeping in to cause trouble.
Not if he stays true.
Yes, because when it's slow, when time is slow, then it can stay in order. Right?
Yeah. But when he goes home to his wife and kids,
Then it goes too fast.
all the time goes fast again, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because he gets out of the cosmic, out of the reality, into his own emotional
Yes, and
self.
is it possible to keep in reality even when he goes home?
Yes. And that requires a total death of the scientist and of the man at home, the householder.
Mm-hmm.
Man is then a human being.
Yes, now you made a statement in one of your talks that the space is the body of eternity or something. I can't remember the words you used. Is that what you said?
Yes, this space here is the projection.
Which space? The one we see here?
Yes, the one we see here is a projection of the eternal mind.
Why do you call it a body, though, I think, in your...
Do I?
Yeah.
Well, that is the body in which all things are located, and tells it. It's the body of... All things are located. There's more space than objects, and that is the mind. That is the reflection of the eternal mind, a projection of the eternal mind. Mm-hmm. And the more you go into the cosmic, I mean, the space here on the face of the earth is not as real as the space as you go towards the more real objects.
Yes,
because the earth is not as real as the sun.
Yes, of course that does not correspond to anything in scientific knowledge, because the sun was created as the same sort of thing as the earth, but at a different temperature and a lot bigger.
Yes.
So the gravity of the sun is just a lot more than the gravity of the earth. Right?
And if the earth had more gravity, it would be a sun.
Well, according to this theory, because it would get to be very heavy, it would collapse, rise to a high temperature, and start to become a star. Right?
Then it would radiate.
That's the theory as to how stars are made. Once they get together enough mass, they do all that. Now, there's at present no idea of any fundamental difference between the reality of a star and the reality of the earth, except that one is a lot bigger and hotter than the other, right? And is radiating.
Yes. Well, science doesn't deal in that sort of area. Because it doesn't understand it.
I don't quite see why you say that this cosmic body, such as a star, is more real than the earth.
Well, the earth is not a giver of life, in the sense that a star is a giver.
Yes, well, the star gives light out, and that light will make life possible, right?
Yes, in matter.
Yes.
And the earth is matter, but the star is not matter.
Well, with the present scientific theory, the star is matter at a higher temperature.
Yes, that's fair enough.
Say 10, 20 million degrees or something.
Yes.
But I mean, you're saying differently.
Yes, I am saying that is not so.
Yeah, well, why do you say it? I mean, how does one understand it?
The star is what I call the projection of an idea, which is consciousness. And the earth is not conscious yet.
Yes. Well, it's not clear why one should think the star is conscious. You see, I mean, you didn't say that, but why?
That is fair enough. But it's fair enough. Why should you? I mean, you've got to pursue. I can't demonstrate to you that the star is conscious.
Well, what makes you say it then?
Because I know it.
I mean, how do you know it, right?
From within. Because I see the universe as it is within, where it is not differentiated, and where all the stars and everything that is outside is. And the universe consists of consciousness.
Consider that you're saying a star is conscious and is radiating an energy of a different quality because of its consciousness, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Now, apparently, suppose, for example, you were to establish people underground in a life support system and using electrical light to grow things. So now, wouldn't that work?
No.
But I mean, we have no reason at the moment to know whether to suppose it wouldn't. You see?
Well, that can work. Yes, if they like to think that that'll work, that's all right. But that's not reality. That's reactivated energy. Did you remember reading about reactivated energy?
Well, I can't remember everything.
No, I understand it. I think it's that you've read the whole thing in this time is amazing. But
well, I didn't. I read the earlier part carefully, and later I got the general idea. You see, but Yes, I remember reactivated energy. Could you remind me again?
Yes, but all energy on the face of the earth.
Yes, I know. I remember that now. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, but why isn't reactivated energy just as good as the energy from the sun?
Well, it's not as real. It has had the consciousness taken out of it.
Now, would that affect people if they lived only on reactivated energy? Yes. Would
They
affect their
gradually,
consciousness. Huh?
they gradually lose consciousness.
Yeah.
Lose their reality.
And if somebody lived in a cave using only artificial lights for a long time, you don't think they would survive, right?
They would survive and everything adapts, but they would lose their consciousness.
Lose their higher consciousness.
They lose their consciousness, but not within. So they go within into death or into those states within and regain their consciousness in a non-corporeal sense. So nothing's lost. They would just retreat, like everything, back into where it is real. So it's all right. But science could never have that. They'd have to experiment and do that. But it's all right, because there is no death. There is reality.
Yes, well, I wanted to say, that I think that, what you say is much more understandable in discussion than it is in your book.
Yes, it's very difficult to cover all that in words. Because my presence also helps. The presence opens the consciousness.
But also we're able to question.
Yes. And the idea is that I will be giving seminars and all sorts of things on it so that people are able to investigate it for themselves, because they're all human beings. And a human being starting to investigate this area.
Yes, what do you mean by investigating?
Within himself.
Yeah.
He's going within himself, because I'll always be pushing him inside. Now, this is what it is. The whole universe is inside you. What do you mean? And I can demonstrate that to him and what is cosmic.
What do you expect the book to accomplish?
To raise the consciousness of life on earth. As it has.
Yes. When is it going to be published?
September, they hope. In autumn. Yes. Do you think it is any sort of a contribution?
Well, it could be, yes. You see, I'm trying to say that I feel that, I don't know, for different people it could be different, you see.
Yes, I'm sure.
I think that, of course, the way you write must appeal to certain people.
But what about the subject matter, do you think?
Well, I think the subject matter, say, would be difficult for anybody who was at all oriented towards science or anything like that.
Yes.
But perhaps for somebody else who looked at things differently, it might not be. I don't know, you see.
May I ask you about just a couple of fundamental things that I mentioned? As I say in the opening to your book, you talk about that the problem of the nature of movement has not been solved.
Yeah.
Well, I say in my book, and I say now, that I have solved the nature of movement.
What would you say the solution is?
The solution is to enter the timeless.
Yes, I know what you mean, yes.
Yeah. So the nature of movement is ignorance. The ground of movement is ignorance. And the character of it, or the nature of it, is ignorance. And the character of it is intelligence.
The character, what do you mean by that? Okay, let's see.
Everything has a ground and everything has a character.
Yes, what is the difference between the character and the ground?
One is the feeling of it, and the other is the intellectual perception.
Is the character the intellectual perception? Yes, well, that puts it into the explicate order then.
Explicate order?
Yeah, the character.
No.
If it's intellectual, right?
No.
Not the intellectual perception, right? All right, yes, to the intellect. And that is, if it's once stated as the structure of ideas, then it's in the explicate order.
Well, the character is synonymous with your own intelligence, your own intellect. Now, we can't put that into any order, because that is the reflector. That cannot be put in any order, because it will reflect whatever is inside that which is looking at. That will reflect the unconscious, as it does in my case, because I use the intellect. And it reflects my unconscious, and it reflects another man's mind, another man's ignorance. The intellect is just purely the reflector, represented by the universe itself, which is the the closest projected demonstration of the intellect, the universe. the earth is the ground. Our ground is the earth, which is your own matter, which is your own feeling. That is the earth. Now, science couldn't have this, could they? But this is the truth, because science does not deal in the truth. It deals in relationships. The relationships of this to that. And the truth does not deal in relationships. The truth deals in the truth. And when I say that you are an earthling, your feeling is the ground of your being. It is also the earth of your being. And your intellect, or your apparent thinking or perceptive self, is the cosmos. That is the character. In that is your character. In the earth is your nature. And the difference between the nature and the character will be to you self-explanatory. The nature is the earthiness, the feelingness of us. The character is a far more cosmic and universal thing, as the universe is far more great and vast, more cosmic than the earth itself. But you cannot separate the part from the whole. So the earth has its pristine place in the pristine universe, and all works in beautiful, empiric harmony if one is in the timeless. And it is glorious, and it is magnificent, and in that is the truth. For he who is there can feel the truth of that, and know the truth of that at the same time, which is the complete immediacy of oneness between intellect and feeling, character and ground, cosmos and earth. And therefore, I have cosmic consciousness, because I am unified with the cosmos and with the earth. I am one with nature and my character. I am timeless and I am eternal, for I am man. I'm not something extraordinary. I am man, and man himself is extraordinary, and that is a wonder. And I want all men to know that they are most extraordinary. That this is they. This is you.
Why do you say extraordinary?
Well, every man is so extraordinary because everything is so ordinary. Man's pursuit is so ordinary. But I say, man, you are extraordinary. You are this unity between cosmos, the pristine beauty that the scientist loves and adores with his wonder at it. You are that plus this, the wonder of the earth, the sea, the smell of the breeze. These two are unified in you, the bridge between the two. You are a wonder man. Please don't be ordinary. Please be yourself. Be extraordinary. Do you think, Mr. Bohm, that I just speak a sort of poetry, or do you think I might speak the truth?
Well, it could be the truth. I mean,
do you feel it vibrates in you?
well, I'm not sure. You see, I think there may be some resonance in there.
You see, you could say that I was speaking myth.
Yeah, well,
But am I speaking myth or am I speaking truth? Is this what you are? Is that an invention or is it the truth? The resonance says the truth. But man has to be very humble and very still and very real to acknowledge it if it is true. And he's got to acknowledge it more and more to grow, to become it. For God will not give himself, which is that pristine wonder. If there is a God, that's it, whatever that is, cannot come into you unless you acknowledge it.
yes, I mean, what do you mean by God? You began to use the word. Huh?
What I just described about the earth and the cosmos is God. That pristine wonder, which is that resonance that you referred to in you, that is the wonder of God, of such a wonder that it's unnameable. But it is. It's unnameable, but by golly it is. It's all that exists. We look at the earth, our nature, and the cosmos, the universe, which the scientists try to probe into. But he's not going to find what I'm talking about. He will stop and wonder at it, won't he? And he'll really heave with the beauty of what he's looking at, and then he'll put it aside and get out his notebook. But he leaves himself. He is that wonder. It is the wonder of being, that is the reality, not the working out of it. So, talking back to realities in the book, one of the things I said was about movement, and that's where I started on this ground. Do you hear me in any way then?
When you say what movement is,
Movement
is an illusion,
is grounded in ignorance,
grounded in ignorance.
and its character is intelligence. It is
Yeah,
created by intelligence, which
it's
is not
not-
yet.
It's
It's
carried.
created, yes, it is created by intelligence, which is ignorant.
Well, are you saying that? So how can intelligence be ignorant if it's intelligent?
Well, it's what it's investigating. It is investigating intelligence that is projected and investigating the ground. The ground it's investigating. It is not investigating itself. And so therefore it investigates only the ground. And so it is divided. It yields movement. Now, as you enter the timeless, movement slows down and gradually will stop.
Yes, but does it stop altogether? But I mean, it seems you say that there's something that's going very fast, so rather like a vibration, I would say, and something that slows down, right?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
That is so.
Now, could you say the vibration becomes infinitely fast and the time becomes infinitely slow?
Yes, yes. And all movement stops.
Yeah.
It's just like the fixed stars.
Yes. Now, if all movement stops, does that make things just static and frozen, or?
Oh no, because there's this tremendous, which we can't even call momentum or oscillation, we can't even use that word, but we've got to use something like that. Consciousness is vibrating at such a speed that there's no need for anything else to move. Because the consciousness
is only the movement of consciousness.
Yes.
Right.
And once that's reached, all movement stops.
Well, the movement of content stops, but wouldn't you say consciousness is still moving, right? It's vibrating or whatever.
We have to use that word for our own communication.
In some sense, there is a movement, but it's not that the content.
The thing
of
itself is moving.
Yeah, the thing
so
itself is
therefore-
moving, but the content.
So nothing's moving.
The content of consciousness doesn't move, right?
It has no content. It is
Yeah.
itself.
It is itself, but the movement is always in the content.
Yes, so as consciousness has no content.
Yeah. Then the movement is no movement. That is. The mistake is to regard this content as reality, right?
Yes.
Right. There is movement in the content, but
Oh, yes. Yes. But that is the mistake. And we
Yes,
made
okay.
that mistake by
it
not
is real only in some very limited context of the outward.
70-year context.
Yeah.
Now, that, I say, is the solution of what the nature of movement is. Now, I know all about that. Now, I have to say this because I say these things to draw man's attention to the fact that it is possible to reach this knowledge within himself. You might say, well, it's no good to us out here. But I question that. If it's good to you inside, when it changes you inside, it changes the perception outside.
Yes, but you will still see movement outside.
Yes, you will. Yes, of course you will, but you're not identifying.
Yes, that's right. We don't give it that importance in the
Yes.
sense that is movement in the limited explicate
Yes.
area,
It is so.
which in some way must reflect reality, but not in the way when you're
Indeed.
not as a direct representation of it.
Yes. Now, it's because the scientist will not see that there's the other thing inside, that he is not serving himself, not serving mankind as the pursuit of his own being. Now, if he just would hear that, if he could just hear it, only hear it, it has its own virtue. It works inside of him. And so he starts to get a new perspective. And he then starts to travel towards death or the understanding of himself. Now, another thing that I mentioned in that was the universe has no beginning. And that the Big Bang, you read what I said about the Big Bang, that is it complete and utter.
Well, we could say that whatever is described in the Big Bang is not the whole, but it's some smaller aspect of the universe. Right?
The Big Bang is not an aspect of the universe, no. That's an aspect of the mind.
Yes.
Going into the past, its idea of the past. The mind's idea of the past is not the past at all. So, I would stand up in front of all the scientists on Earth and discuss this question and see who was the most intelligent.
Yeah, well, one doesn't know. The Big Bang is the result of a theory which fits certain facts. It can never be regarded as certain anyway. Now that some scientists are questioning it, and these theories have changed over the years. Like they had the steady state theory, now they've got the Big Bang. They may have something else in another 20 years.
Yes. But that's not, the point is not to just argue about that. It's to get inside and say, well now, what do you say? What is this time, this past you're talking about?
The timeless past.
No, this time and past that you're talking about, if the scientists would only stand and, as you are, stand and talk to that, we can get behind all the other and into him, and he starts to see. He starts to see that the mind has these limits, and that's all he's got to see. It doesn't mean that he doesn't do what he's doing. It just means that he sees that what he's been identified with as the be-all and end-all is not that. He has to see that his investigation is into his own mind.
Now you're saying that basically this identification comes because the mind cannot face death.
Yes.
Right.
Cannot face the truth. Death is the truth.
Death is the truth.
It cannot face it.
Because it cannot face death because it has no way of understanding death. That is its own death, right? Is that it?
Yes. It has to give up that need to know as an identification, as a way of life.
Yes, well, the identification is, as far as I see it, a way of, the knowledge is a way of trying to escape the notion of death by thinking of something that doesn't die, right?
Yes, that's what he identifies with something that doesn't die.
Yeah.
And also he feels in time, because any time he's got, he'll start to think about death. He'll get bored. That is the feeling of death coming.
How does that come about? The boredom is the same.
But he gets bored because there's nothing to do.
Yes. All right, then.
And the impulse is of the past to keep pushing him out. All the men and all the impulses of the past to get away from death are in us.
Well, when he has nothing to do, he's in danger of the thought of the death coming. The thought of death coming up.
Yes, because he feels boredom is the feeling of I'm dying.
Is it? No, I mean,
I can't be myself. I can't stand what I am.
Yes, it implies the need to die, to say that if I'm bored with myself, then I can't remain myself. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm really saying that to be bored is to be, I can't stand myself.
I said that, yes. Now
That's good.
And then that means if I can't stand myself,
I'm going to have something else.
Yes, but if I try to escape into something else, but if I weren't able to escape, then that would be death.
The beginning of death.
Yeah.
Death would then begin for me, and I would go through dreadful pain.
Yeah.
As we know, anyone who's bored and has to say, well, now you just sit there and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The pain is unbelievable, because he's then pushing against that past, the momentum of the past that's passing through him, and insisting that he go out. And the spiritual way, of course, is to face that.
So boredom is a sign that there's something wrong with this whole thing, right?
Something wrong with me.
Yeah, with the whole structure.
Yes.
Um,
The need to do or to know. As a need.
mm-hmm. But you can do or know without feeling that
That
need.
need, yes.
As you feel it as an absolute necessity, rather than something that you could take or leave, or take it or leave it. That's what you mean by need, that you feel you must know with absolute necessity, and you can't just take it or leave it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. First thing to know is yourself. That is the only necessity. That is vital.
It is an absolute necessity to know yourself.
Yes. An absolute necessity, which means it is vital.
Yeah.
Which means it is essential.
Yeah, they're all the same.
No, they're not.
What?
Using your word thing.
What?
What is necessary is not vital and not essential.
Well, what is the difference, say, between necessary, vital, and essential?
Right. What is necessary is what is.
What?
Yeah. What is necessary is what is.
Yeah.
That is action. All action is necessary, or it couldn't be. What is vital is feeling. That is the first inner world, which we must penetrate if we're going to get towards death.
And what is
the
essential?
pain? That is the pain.
Yes, and then what is essential?
It's the unconscious, the principle. But the vital is the way the pain is. And that's where death is. And that's where all men and women are. They are not in the necessary.
They are?
They are not in the necessary.
Yeah, but they have a false notion of necessity.
That is. And it is the understanding of this that, of course, is self-knowledge and is knowledge and not information. Because you can't, no one can tell you. Because while we're talking here now, although we touch on bits of information, really, it's what we're talking about is knowledge. Your knowledge of yourself. And all the time you are referring it, less and less to your mind, and more to your own being, where knowledge is. You are not fighting. You are not arguing. You are absorbing and referring it. And you should be receiving intimations from inside yourself. It's all right. This is okay. This is okay. It doesn't have to be absolutely word perfect correct.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay. There is something coming here. There is energy from here that's here that is right. And this, of course, is what it's about. To get to your being. Because consciousness, by the necessity of your being here, always addresses itself to consciousness. Because consciousness is not with those things that cannot hear. It is always with that which can hear. Is there anything you wanted to ask me?
I think, oh God, I really should be going now.
All right, Mr. Bell, well, I do say it's been wonderful to speak to you, and I have to say, I have to acknowledge your wonderful humility and ability to just be able to talk and not take a position.
Yes, well, I think that it was a good discussion we've had, a good talk.
Yes.
And I'll be glad to go over it in the tape.
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And a pleasure to be with you and to share consciousness in love and truth.